Hi guys, this is Bunny. Some of you have been requesting if I could do a coloring tutorial, and I will admit I've done this in the past, but it was my first video, so it was not that good and not very detailed, so I understand if some of you are very confused on what my process is, but I'm here now and I'm gonna do a more in-depth tutorial on how I do my coloring, and hopefully this will answer some of your questions that you guys have been asking me. If you guys have any other questions on how I do my other things with my illustrations, you guys can just leave a comment down below and let's get to it. So before we start, when I pick my base colors after I've done my sketch, I usually keep it within this range. It's kind of like an L shape, I would assume. And the reason I do this is because I really like to keep the base colors really desaturated, as they will become more saturated the more you move on with the progress. I guess that's how you could explain it. So, for example, if I had a daytime character, like if it was just in the light of day, I would choose a light not brew a light blue, oh my god, I just said it again, a light blue color, because that is what the sky color is going to reflect, right? So this is what it would look like on the character. Now if it was nighttime, I would probably go with a bit more desaturated and desaturated blue, maybe leaning more towards violet, because that's what the shadows are gonna look like on there. And for example, if it was a sunsetty color, I'd go with like a peachy red-ish. So you can see there's like different scenes and it's all gonna match with like what background you use. You don't really have to do background. If you don't end up doing a background, what I like to do is just use the daytime color because it's the most basic one to do. And I'll show you here how it's gonna blend in with each of like the scenes. So as you can see, the ball that I made is gonna match in a bit more with the environment that you're gonna use. Now, I add another layer and I'm gonna put it on add. Clip Studio Paint has this option where you can put it on glue. I usually like using that a bit more because it reminds me of the add selection that you have on Procreate. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click on my multiply layer, create a selection again, and now I'm gonna invert it. So we're gonna color on the top where the shadows aren't reaching the ball, and the sun is always going to be yellow, so I always choose, if it's like really dark at night, I would recommend going with a bit more like desaturated yellow, but I'm gonna use like a dark orange, I guess. I'm gonna go with that with an airbrush, right? And now, like I said, I'm gonna use a bit more like a desaturated, maybe red orange for the night one. And after, you're gonna make another layer. Use a lot of layers, like I said, and you're gonna put an overlay. Now this is what is like my trick. Overlay layer is the best layer, and I didn't use it before at all because I didn't know what it did, and I still don't know what it does, but I know it makes the colors really nice. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pick now very saturated colors, right? So if it was like a skin color, I would pick what I would think the skin color would be outside the shadows, and I'm just gonna color it in here and here, maybe a bit darker one for the night one, like here and here. So as you can see, it's gonna change how the colors reflect. So it's gonna be a bit more saturated where the light hits and then fade in to like this normal dark one, which is the light blue we put on. Now there's also reflections that we have to keep in mind, and reflections are basically the shadows that are gonna, or like the light on the shadows that are gonna be reflected to the skin. So in the blue color, I would usually like go here, maybe not that much, like a desaturated blue, and paint it here. As you can see, it blends in more with the environment. With the dark blue, I'm just gonna, or the night one, we're gonna do this one. so it also again blends in with the environment. Now usually the reflective color is blue, or like a very desaturated blue, like a grayish blue, so I recommend doing that as like the main, like as a what's it called, like a little tip in your head that you're always going to use like as a kind of blue in your coloring. And I do this for all my colors. If you're painting a darker skin tone, it's not very much different in the way I do it. So when I do darker skin colors, I keep them desaturated because they are going to become more saturated, as you can see with these colors here. Now, as you can see, I did a darker skin color and the technique still remains the same. You can even make it darker, but if you do make it darker, I would like for you to keep some things in mind, that usually the darker skin colors are going to look better with a purplish, as they are way like more cool toned. And then when you do the reflective, I'd also recommend doing a bit more purple-ish color, because it looks way better and it's not gonna look washed out with like all the other colors. So the base colors are basically, they turn into the highlight colors instead of like the base colors with how you do it. Now, applying what we have just learned onto this illustration, and this art piece was actually a competition or art piece for Huion's monthly art competition. Sorry, that was a lot of words that sounded the same. For Huion's monthly art competition, and this month's theme was mirrors, so I decided to draw this cute girl that you could see through her mirror in the bedroom. I actually had a lot of art block, and I still think I do while drawing this. So I actually did the sketching on Procreate and moved it on to Clip Studio Paint because I ended up really liking the sketching and I wanted to finish it. But oh my god, it was such a hassle to finish because I was like, I don't really want to draw, but I do want to draw, and I don't like it, but I do like it, and it was such like, it was all over the place. I don't know if I like it still. I guess I don't like it. I saw this TikTok that people are saying that you don't like your art because you know you made it, or you could see that you made it, and that makes so much sense. So my boyfriend was like, you should just post it anyway. I was like, I don't want to, but you know, here I am, I'm posting it, and I hope you guys will like it because I have mixed feelings with this piece. Like sometimes I'll look at it and I'm like, oh, it's kind of cute, and then other times I'll be like, I could have done better, I could have put more detail in it, but you know, again, here we are, and art is supposed to be fun, so let's try and have fun with it, I guess. Now, I'm applying all the techniques that we learned for this environment setting. She was obviously in her bedroom, so I used a warm grey instead of all the other colours I went through. That's kind of silly of me that I went ahead to introduce you guys to the colours and then don't even use like the shadow colors that I used in this piece. But the reason I used a warm grey was because I actually didn't know what type of reflective light or what environment she would kind of be in. So that's also what I would recommend if it's inside or like there's not really a reflective light anywhere. I would recommend using a warm grey because that is very versatile and you could work with it in a lot of ways with the overlay. Now, I'd recommend for like beginner artists or intermediate artists that if you don't know what shadow color you should use for your character, I'd recommend doing the background first. The reason that I didn't use the background first was because I had like an idea of where she was going to be, and I have a lot of experience with putting characters into an environment, so I kind of knew what range I should use. But if you have no idea and you're completely lost, I recommend doing the background first because it's way easier to see what type of shadow color or what reflective light you need to use. Again, this is only if you feel like you need it. Obviously it's going to make the process a lot easier, but I don't like doing my background first, and that's why I just make myself guess. Obviously that's probably not the best way, but I know a lot of people do this way if they feel comfortable doing it this way. But again, if you don't feel comfortable, I'd recommend doing the background first. Again, if you're just trying to do like a character sheet or just like a cute character in a pose and you don't really want a background, or like the background is like white or like pink, like full on pink or on it, I'd recommend using the daytime color, just like a light blue, because that's going to make it look way more natural with how your character is. For example, if you're gonna use the nighttime like technique where it's a very dark desaturated violet color, it's going to clash a bit with a white background, for example, and it's not gonna look natural. Obviously some artists can make it work, but again, if you don't really know what shadows to use or like shadow color to use, I recommend just doing the daytime one, because it's going to look normal in every type of background that you do, except for if it's like a detailed background where you're actually drawing like a city or like anything like that. But if it's just like a white background, like a plain white black background, and you just want to draw a character for fun, I recommend just using the light blue, because that's what looks best for me, at least. I'm not sure if you guys can make it work other way. I'm assuming you guys can. You're very talented, and very talented people can pull that off. So that's honestly what I would recommend. That's just my tip for the day and what I do, and I'll of course put up some examples of what I mean where I've used the daytime lighting for backgrounds that aren't really any like background in it. It's gonna be way easier to explain if I had a picture on the screen here, but obviously I'm gonna put that in for editing so you guys can get a feel of what I mean. Now, when I've done rendering my character and I feel like everything looks fine with the shadows, I go over the whole character again with a big overall shadow. And the reason I do this is because sometimes I feel like I might have lost my shadows in the process of rendering, and that's okay, it's gonna happen. You're gonna lose those dramatic shadows that you had at the start, and that's why I usually go over with like the same color that I use for the start, and then just use an add layer again. Basically the same technique, and if I feel like I've lost the colors again, I'll just use the overlay layer. That's just my process, just repeat those same three techniques. And the reason I also feel like this can work is because there's sometimes shadows within shadows. So what I mean is, like, when you're walking outside it's really bright outside and you walk under the shadow of a building, you can still see your own shadows from time to time, and there'll still be shadows within the big shadow. So that's why it's okay to do this. I feel like that's why it looks good, and that's also the main reason I do it, because it's going to make the piece look more extreme with the shadows and have a bit more contrast with everything. And now we're nearing the end of this video. I hope you guys liked this tutorial, and I do want to do more of these tutorial focused videos in the future. Just let me know if you guys have any questions, and please like and subscribe if you found this helpful. Bye!